I'm assuming we're ready to go. I see the live.
Yep, you're good to go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, good evening, members of council, members of the public and staff to the April 6th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting. Can I get someone to call the meeting to order? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Mayor Prevost. All in favor? Meeting is called to order. Can I get approval of the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Lang, that the agenda is approved as presented. Moving on to number 3, approval of the minutes of the March 15th meeting. Have you all had a chance to review them? I'm assuming that's yes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes? Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor? Minutes are approved. A declaration of pecuniary interest. I will be handing over the floor to Mayor Prevost on A08-21 as it involves my parents. Okay, are there any other declarations besides myself? Seeing none, moving on to number 5, A05-21, Charlotte, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting this evening. For members of the public that are participating by Zoom or by phone, you will be permitted to speak to your respective application following my presentation. Prior to speaking, please state your name and address for the record. To make a comment, you're welcome to use the raise hand function and the chair will call on you. If you've registered to participate in the meeting by phone, you will be asked if you would like to comment on the application after the applicable presentation. This is a hearing under Section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act. I am required to read formal reading, so any person may attend this hearing and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, also known as LPAT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment or to the Township of South Glengarry before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So as you mentioned, we have 4 applications this evening to hear. The first application on our agenda is A05-21, filed by the Charlottes. I did receive an email this afternoon from the Raisin Region Conservation Authority following their official comments requesting that the application be deferred. I believe they wanted more time to look at information that was provided by the Charlottes, as well as to review the official plan. However, it is my understanding in speaking with the Charlottes, they may request the committee to move forward. So, Mr. Chair, I think I would like to hear that comment or feedback before I move forward, if that's okay with you.
Okay, so you're requesting that the Charlottes speak, or are you requesting Mrs. McDonald from the RRCA speak?
So I'm requesting that the Charlottes confirm if we would like to proceed. To my understanding, I don't believe Ms. McDonald is on the meeting this evening unless she's changed her mind.
She is one of the attendees.
Oh, excellent. Okay, that's great.
So should we put her to speak first?
I would like to hear from the Charlottes because
Okay.
the RS, or actually, sure, ask Ms. McDonald if she would, if she remains with the requested deferral or if she would prefer to move forward.
Okay, so I'm going to allow Ms. McDonald from the RRCA to proceed.
Good evening, McDonald from the RRCA.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
I don't mind proceeding. I provided comments this morning that I communicated to Joanne. Once I realized I only had one day, one business day to go over new information that was submitted. So I received an email on March 31st, which gave me one business day. So in discussions with Joanne this morning, after I'd already provided my comments in the morning, she indicated some information that didn't sound familiar. So I went back and looked, and sure enough, the information that was provided to me via pre-consultation and not provided to me in the first circulation I received from Joanne. Sorry, just to back up, I received new information on March 31st. So again, it gave me one business day and it differed from the pre-consultation meeting.
Mr. Chair, if the Shalettes are fine, I would like to move forward with my presentation then.
Yeah, no, so Ms. McDonald, you stated in your comments that you're fine with this application moving forward. Am I correct?
I don't mind the presentation or the hearing A-050, sorry, 05-21 this evening. I did not support the application.
Okay. Okay.
And without reviewing the new information, I still do not support the information.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you. I'll allow the Shalettes to speak now. Here we go. Okay, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Shalette. You have the floor.
Good evening, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. We're excited to be part of the community and to move forward. There's new information being presented to me, to us, by the hour, and so we're just trying to process the whole thing. I think that we were prepared to defer, and as was suggested earlier, do you think there's any benefits to deferring and reflecting, or I'm deferring it to the committee to guide me a little bit as to what we should or shouldn't do. And again, we're looking for, we're looking to move forward as promptly as possible. We have to get back to our contractors, but we want to do things right and right by as many people as we can, organizations. So back to you, Lyle. Councilor.
Okay. Yep. Thank you very much for your comments. So appreciate that. Ms. Haley, so I'll send it back to you to finish your presentation. Obviously, it sounds like they'd like to move forward if they can, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. So getting started, A0521 is located at part of Lot K, Concession 1 front in the Geographic Township of Charlottenburgh, now in South Glengarry, also known as 20278 County Road 2. This is a key map of the subject property. You can see it's located on the south side of County Road 2, just west of the Raisin River. And this is a front street view or road view of the parcel of property. I realize that it's difficult to see. You can't really see the boathouse clearly, but it should give you a visual of what the property looks like currently, as this photo was just taken a little over a week ago. So I have a little bit of history to explain about the parcel of property. The property is currently developed along the water's edge, containing a boathouse with a residence. It is serviced by a private septic tank, and the subject property is over 1.5 acres in size. The purpose of the minor variance is the applicant proposes to demolish the existing boathouse containing the residential living space and to construct a single detached dwelling, decks, and a retaining wall. The following relief from the zoning bylaws requested. Part 3.97 to reduce the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 15.5 meters to the proposed single detached structure. And I'll review the site plan in the next couple of slides. Also, to reduce the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 15.1 meters to the proposed deck / retaining wall, simply because there's a wall that supports the deck. And then the third request is to reduce the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 8.6 meters to the southwest portion of the proposed retaining wall / pool, and to 13 meters to the southeast portion of the proposed retaining wall / pool. So this is a site plan that was provided to us from the Chalets. And you can see in the area in blue is the proposed single detached dwelling. The area close to the water's edge, if you can follow my mouse, is the existing 2-story cottage / boathouse that is proposed to be removed. And then you can also see in this location that's highlighted is an existing septic tank that would also be removed, and that would allow this area of the property to be developed. This area highlighted in light blue demonstrates a cantilever deck, as well as decking that would step down and then able to walk out to a pool. And then of course the requested reduced setbacks are highlighted in red. The pool is an elevated structure that would appear to be an infinity pool as you walk out of the proposed dwelling. And I'm sure the Chalets can explain this so much better than I can, because it's their design, of course, in terms of how they want to construct the dwelling. This is a 3D image of what the property would look like. This is the south side being the water side. So as I tried to explain, you can walk out of the house at the same elevation of the pool. And this is the area that I was referring to as the retaining wall / pool. The reason you can see here, then it's quite a high wall, and it be landscaped around it. And then this would be the walkout basement portion of the structure. So the property is designated rural district in the county official plan, and the development outside of the hazard and the 15-meter setback conforms to the general intent of the official plan. The property is zoned Residential One and Floodplain. There's just a little bit of floodplain that's along the water's edge of the property, and the development is outside of the 15 meters. The development outside of the 15-meter setback conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The application was circulated to applicable municipal staff. Our building department has no concerns with the application. Because this property is so large, as I mentioned earlier, it's over 1.5 acres in size. There is ample space to be able to meet the required 30-meter watercourse setback. We often see existing parcels of property that are undersized or currently developed where people are proposing to reconstruct or improve an existing structure with an addition that can't meet the 30 meters. This property obviously can, given the size and the depth between County Road 2 and the waterfront. However, our zoning bylaw does permit a watercourse setback to be reduced to 15 meters. Therefore, planning can support the proposed variance for the dwelling and the deck. Minor variances are not required for pools within the watercourse setback as per our zoning bylaw. But because this proposed pool will be constructed to achieve an infinity pool look, the wall of the pool meets the definition of a retaining wall, according to our zoning bylaw. And in our zoning bylaw, a retaining wall is considered to be a structure when it is over 0.3 meters in height, which is only a foot. And that's what triggers the minor variance. And this wall is retaining the water where the infinity pool will be constructed. Planning does have concerns with the location of the proposed pool, as it is located within the 15-meter watercourse setback. And of course, that's something I cannot support because the bylaw only permits me to reduce it to up to 15 meters. So the RRCA was circulated on this application. As you heard, they do not support the application as presented. And I have received no other public comments to date. Actually, I need to mention that the United Counties had no comment on the application. And that's probably because of just the distance of the proposed development adjacent to the county road. I have so it is recommended that the minor variance be approved in part to permit the development of the proposed single detached dwelling. However, it is not recommended to approve, however, it is not recommended to approve the requested variance for the proposed retaining wall to support the pool, simply because it falls within that 15-meter watercourse setback. The committee has the following options. They can approve the application in full, they can approve the application in part, and they can defer the application. And of course, I prepared this slide after I received the email from the RRCA as they had requested the deferral. But if you feel there's any additional information you need this evening, you can certainly defer the application as well. So at this time, I do know that the Chalettes have information that they would like to provide to the committee as well, and perhaps Ms. McDonald might as well from the Conservation Authority. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'll let the Chalettes, I'll ask them if they want to add anything at this time.
Can you hear?
Mr. and Mrs. Chalette, do you have anything that you'd like to add at this time?
Well, we did our best. We're doing our best to try to find what was initially discussed as a compromise. The existing situation that we have right now, we need to improve on. It's not permanent, although we absolutely love the views. We're living on a second story above a boathouse. So we're looking to improve the current situation from both a hazard, from both a setback that would naturally fit into the landscape and aesthetically look good with regards to the surrounding areas. And we think we have a good compromise. We would stop using the septic. We would stop living in this dwelling. We would actually move our own living dwelling and our view that we currently have an infinity view of the lake back over 30 meters. And we thought we were doing well until we found out our retaining wall was not to code. But as it relates to the pool specifically, to me, it's nothing more than a glorified above ground pool. And our understandings were that pools, there was some flexibility with pools. Different than an in-ground pool, this is not necessarily permanent. We're engineering it so that it can actually physically be removed one day. It's completely detached from the house. So if an iceberg was ever to come and grab the pool, the house would stay 100% intact. So it's actually like an above ground pool. And the initial concern that was raised by the RRCA was that we would bring topsoil to lift the pool. And I later found out that it actually sits on a hard compressed foam, which is pretty cool. And so there's no soil. We are not disturbing the soil, even less than an in-ground pool. In my mind, this is environmentally more friendly, and it's removable. So,
okay.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to thank you very much, Mr. Chalette. I'm going to stop you there. I will go to Ms. McDonald one more time if she would like to add a comment. I don't see your hand raised, but I'm trying to find participants here. Sorry, I opened the wrong window. There we go. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Hi, thank you. So I put this was an unusual application. There was a lot more information to go through with this particular one. The applicants provided a lot more information than the average minor variance applicant would. So it was a lot more involved, and there was a lot of information going back and forth. And as you can see, right to the last hour. The Chalettes are correct in that we did discuss back and forth the merits of taking the boathouse down, which I thought was a win. But planning wise, it's a little different. Once you take it down, you lose your grandfathering rights. But they were trying to use that as an advantage to building the new construction away from the shoreline. One big consideration for this particular property is that there's enough room to move everything out of the 30 meters and to meet all the applicable setbacks and requirements. We were willing to consider that 15 meters for the actual dwelling. And the reason being was because of that boathouse that we discussed, because usually, even if we took the boathouse down, if there's enough room on the property, good planning would dictate that you move it out of the area, not just for natural hazards, but for water quality and natural heritage concerns. Sensitive species, the aquatic environment, etc. So in short, my first version, there was a few versions of this letter. There was a lot of time and effort put in this. The first version, I supported 1 and 2, but I was not supporting number 3, the 8.6. And then there was a lot of information. It's complicated, a lot of technical information. So I thought it best the last hour to change it and condense it and just not support the application. And the reason being is, again, typically if a property is big enough and they can get outside of that area, that's what we recommend. That's what the technical criteria tells our office, that that's what we're supposed to try to do. In this particular instance, by not meeting the 15 meters, it brings into play that we didn't discuss at pre-consultation, because we were under the impression that they were going to try to meet that 15 meters. And as per Mr. Chalette's conversation this evening, but by not meeting the 15 meters with that retaining wall, then you still have the technical requirement of environmental impact study, because 8.6 meters is very, very close to the St. Lawrence system. And there's still not just the natural hazard component, but the natural heritage and water quality, like I discussed. And it's going to actually be you're going to have heavy equipment in there, you're going to have site grading and what have you. So it's actually, the impact's going to be a lot more it's going to be closer than 8.6 meters, for example. If you were
Ms. McDonald, can I ask a question? I'm just, so would it not be an improvement to remove, like, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just wondering, is it not better for that property to have the septic system removed from the front of the property and the second story of the boathouse? Isn't that better for the property than, and approving the retained wall as proposed than allowing it to remain status quo? Because Mr. Charlotte had expressed that the plan B would be to status quo, and then so the septic system would remain really close to the waterfront as it's grandfathered. I'm just wondering, is this something that would be more beneficial, the plan A, than leaving it status quo?
I'm not sure about the plan A, plan B. What I can say is that I am willing to support the RRCA with the technical information that they've provided to date. We may be able to support the 15 meters for the dwelling, so number 1 and number 2, but we still cannot support number 3. And I think that's in line with the township recommendation as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up to Mayor Prevost, Councillor McDonnell, and then Councillor Jaworski after. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Warden. Just a couple of comments, I guess, I want to make in respect to what Mr. Chalette was saying in respect to the retaining wall. It's, you know, we have to take into consideration the retaining wall is a swimming pool. It's not an attachment to a shed. It's not an attachment to a deck. It's not an attachment to a house. In regards to the setbacks, which is the 8.6 or 8.1 or whatever that number was, plus the 15 meters at the other side. You know, we've done other minor variances where we've had those numbers. We've had less numbers in regards to doing things, even with structures. My personal opinion, I don't have an issue in regards to supporting the full application this evening, just based on that retaining wall is like an above ground swimming pool. If there was a flood and an iceberg did come through, we're only losing a swimming pool. We're not losing a structure of a home or a structure of a shed or a structure of a package. So I don't, personally, in my opinion, I don't see it being a major concern. So I will support approving the full application here this evening. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor, moving on to Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, both Kim and Andre and Carla. Personally, I know the property very well, as I grew up going there and we used it as a boathouse when my aunt lived there. It's a beautiful property. I think we're getting a lot further ahead with what they're intending this way. The boathouse was in okay shape then. I can imagine what it's in now. I mean, it's a beautiful spot. I think it should be, though, taken down and have that house put up. I have no issue with the swimming pool. It's not a retaining wall to me. It's a swimming pool. If it were a big circular tin pool with the potential of a leak and having chlorine go into the St. Lawrence, we wouldn't be talking about it. It would just be approved. So as of right now, I have no issue. I don't see why we can support the full application as it stands.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonnell. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you for you, Deputy Mayor Warden. I'd like to start with a question to the applicants. I'd like to understand why it is that they can't accommodate the full structure at that 15 meters. Why do they have to have the pool encroaching on that 15-meter watercourse setback? That is our bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Andre and Carla, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's the $1 million question, right? And it's the $1 million view. You know, you buy a property on the water for the view. When I was younger, it was just to access water and ski and have fun and party. But get older and eventually in a wheelchair, it's all about the view. So the size of the house or the dwelling is secondary to the view for us. And so we have a 180-degree view of the bay to Le Domaine, Mr. Honorable Ed Lumley's place. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's an infinity view from the second deck, and we don't want to give it up. So in terms of a compromise, we're prepared to set back, but every meter we go back, we lose sight of the bay and everything that we see. So I guess there's a point of diminishing return and pleasure, and that's where we set the house. The post, the pillars are actually, the house is actually 5 meters more. So it's, when we say the dwelling, it's 20 and 25 meters, and we're moving 30 and 40 meters from where we are today. The pool is you know, the infinity look. It's a dream. It's an extension of the house, and there's certain angles and sizes and heights that we have to hit so that the water projects into the infinity projects into the lake. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charlotte. That's perfect. Do you have a follow-up?
Well,
Councillor?
yeah, I mean, maybe I can make a comment now, or I can wait if you'd like.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, my understanding of why we have this 15-meter watercourse setback is to protect, you know, the infrastructure that gets built, but also to protect the township from liability if in case, like, if there were hazards that could, you know, ice damage, flooding, et cetera, that can happen in that 15 meters, and that's why we have it set there. So we have like a duty to try and keep things out of there as best we can to protect the infrastructure and to protect the liability to the township as well. I mean, although I totally can see that the applicants are really improving the situation, absolutely, to what's there now. However, this is essentially it's a brand new home, and it sounds like there's lots of space to be able to move it to fully respect the watercourse setback. So, you know, based on, you know, the advice of both our planning department and our RRCA, I'm on the side of, you know, going ahead with how the house is within that watercourse. But for me, this pool, although there seems to be some debate as to whether or not this is, you know, is this a pool or is this, you know, a retaining wall? I know that the diagrams that were provided to us show a very substantial structure that, to the points that have been made about how much work will be put in to put that in. It seems like, you know, in some cases it is very much part of the structure. So I'm not in favor of having the pool, which is kind of an extension of the foundation. I realize it's not the foundation, but I'm not in favor of having that in that watercourse setback when there is so much room on the property.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jaworski. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I can, you know, looking at the property and looking at images from Google Earth, if they were to try to stay, you know, they have the room to move back, but if they move back, they're basically going to be behind the 2 large houses on either side of them. And I can understand the point of not wanting to. You know, you already have properties existing there. They have pool, or at least one of them has a pool in front of the house as well. So if you move back 30 meters, then all of a sudden you have a very narrow lot with a very narrow view looking just straight out. And it just doesn't seem to make sense to me that if we have a house on either side that's basically the same distance, that we would have an issue with this one. And to me, a pool is a pool. If they put an above ground pool, they put an in-ground pool. I just have a hard time, you know, holding somebody back just because they wanted to have a little different pool than the neighbor beside them had. So I'm going to go in favor of this.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lang. Back to you, Councillor McDonnell, quickly, and then the mayor.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, just from as far as I can see, I think as far as disrupting any soil that's there, like looking at it, the existing septic tank is pretty well going to be doing any more digging than closer to the river than the pool would. I'm just looking at it, and like Councillor Lang said, the neighbor's house has a pool right off the front of the house, closer to the river as well. I just don't see where the difference is. Just Ms. Haley, can you just quickly say if this was an in-ground pool or like a regular tin sided with a line around above ground pool, would we be having this conversation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we wouldn't be. The pool would require a permit from the RRCA, an Ontario regulation permit, and a pool enclosure permit would be required from our office, but we would not be processing a minor variance for a pool in this location, as we don't consider the pool a structure in our zoning bylaw. It's really how the pool is designed in this particular case and falls within the definition of the retaining wall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, in that case, I mean, if we're done asking questions, I'm prepared to move to approve as in full.
Okay, so with that being said, Mr. Mayor, did you want to add anything else? You did have your hand up quickly.
Yeah, very quickly, Mr. Chair, thank you. I was going to offer the same as Councillor McDonnell, that I was going to move the motion forward with the full support of the full application. So I will second that motion for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Haley, Councillor McDonnell has moved to, yes.
You're on.
Excuse me, sorry, Mr. Chair. While Ms. McDonald is participating and listening, if we could ask her to formally amend her comments, that way we would have her most recent comments in the file, which would be helpful if we were to receive an appeal. Then we have her up-to-date written comments. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that. So moved, Councillor McDonnell moved to approve as presented. Mayor seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now back to, I lost all my files here. Moving on to the next one, A0621, I believe. Ms. Haley? Yes, Samson Telfner.
I apologize. I was muted. I had to just reopen there we go. So moving on to A0621, this property is located in part of Lot 5, Concession 3, Broken Front, Indian Lands in the Geographic Township of Charlottenburgh, now in the Township of South Glengarry, and it's also known as 18344 Glen Road. There we go. My screen's a little slow this evening on my computer. This is an aerial view of the subject property. You can see this is the Glen Road. The property is located on the south side, just east of the Glendale subdivision. And we have some property views for you. So this is what the property currently looks like. You can see there's an existing detached single family dwelling and a detached garage. And then this would be the front view. So the purpose of the minor variance is the applicant proposes to construct an addition to the existing detached dwelling to accommodate a home occupation for a doctor's office. And it triggered the following minor variance request: to increase the maximum gross floor area of a home occupation from 25% to 35% to accommodate a doctor's office. This is where, this is a view that's been provided to us. So you can see this is the front of the house, which matches what I just showed you in terms of the photo that was recently taken. This area on the side is proposed to be new, which would be up here, this side area, with the addition being on the south side of the house. So basically running back from the road. And then these are the other side view. So I just want to speak to the home occupation for a minute. Our zoning bylaw is really flexible to allow for people to have home occupations, home-based businesses, and home industrial uses in our rural and agricultural zones and our residential zones as well. But you often cap a percentage of space that can be utilized for the home occupation, because you still want to be able to control the space in terms of making sure it remains as a primary residential property, with the ability of having that home business, but that home business doesn't overcome or overpower the existing residents. So we don't see too many minor variance applications like this. We have had a couple in the past. But in this particular case, you'll see increasing the square footage from 25 to 35%. And the applicant may add further information, but they felt this was really important with the times that we're in right now with COVID, and having the ability to see patients in restricted areas, being able to work from home, being in control of your own environment. We worked with them to see if they could come up with a way that it could be placed in their home and hopefully be achievable within their home and still see patients safely. So the property is designated agricultural resource in the county official plan. And this application conforms to the general intent of the official plan, as home-based businesses are permitted. And the property is zoned agriculture and conforms to the general intent of our zoning bylaw. The application was circulated to applicable municipal staff, and planning and building have no concerns with this application. And I have received no formal or verbal comments from anybody to date. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But I do believe the applicants, Ms. Sampson and Mr. Teifer, are available for questions as well to explain their design more detailed if needed.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley. Ms. Sampson, would you like to add any comments to, in addition to what Ms. Haley said?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can, yes. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the council. I'm Dr. Natalie Sampson. I'm a local chiropractor. The reason that we want to do this addition at the house is because of the pandemic. Right now at my office, there's only one door in and out of the office, and it's very difficult to provide physical distancing with my patients. And I can't see the same amount of patients that I normally see. Therefore, it's affecting the patients because they have longer wait times, and it's also affecting me financially. This plan, I would like to have an entrance and an exit, so we would be able to have one-way traffic through the office to be able to keep everybody very safe with social distancing.
Perfect. Thank you very much for those comments. Are there any, Ms. Haley, are you able to go back to the regular screen if possible?
Yes, I apologize.
It's just easier. No, that's perfect.
I'm sorry.
It's easier for me to see everyone. Are there any questions of the committee? Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Ms. Haley, I was just hoping you could remind me the reason why it's normally 25%. What's the rationale for that base?
So, and I'm sorry if I didn't say that clearly earlier. So the reason for having a cap on your gross floor area of your home-based business is to make sure that the business is not overpowering the home. You always want your home to be your primary use in the agricultural and rural zones, and then your business would be the accessory use. So it's common for zoning bylaws to cap the percentage of the gross floor area that can be used. Just because our cap is 25% doesn't mean that another municipality who would have a cap of 15% or 30% is wrong either. It's just historically what's been done in South Glengarry, both in Charlottenburgh Township, as well as now in South Glengarry, because this bylaw has been in effect since 2009. So generally it works for a lot of people, especially when they're doing home offices, hair salons, things like that. But in some cases, they just need a little bit more space.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, can I get a mover to approve as presented? Moved by Councillor Jaworski, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor? Motion is approved. Thank you very much. Good luck with your construction and best wishes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to, sorry to be a little bit abrupt, but we are getting a little short on time. Moving on to A0721, Ms. Haley. You're on me. You're on mute, Ms. Haley. No, you're not.
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay, good. My computer just seems to be really slow. It's not advancing the pages quickly. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So our next application, being A07, is also located on the Glen Road. This property is located at part of Lot 5, Concession 2, in the Geographic Township of Charlottenburgh, now in South Glengarry, also known as 19564 Glen Road. This is an aerial view. So this property is at almost the very east end of the Glen. This is Craft Road at the end. Williamstown Mini Storage is located here. You may be familiar with that site. So this is the area of land that we're looking at this evening. This is a view from the Glen Road. As you can see, the long driveway, and the home is up in this area. So, oh, and sorry, just another view of the property that was taken. So the applicant proposes to create an equestrian farm on an existing developed property. So basically they want to bring horses on the property, but they're caught in the agricultural rule that you have to have more than 20 hectares. And in this case, the property has 10.97 hectares or 27.12 acres in size. And the applicant proposes to have an agricultural use, in this case specifically horses. So is requesting that this variance be approved to permit an agricultural use on an existing lot that is 10.97 hectares in size. The property is designated agricultural resource in the official plan and does conform to the general intent of the official plan. And the property is zoned agriculture and conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The application was circulated to applicable municipal staff, and planning and building have no concerns with the application. No verbal or formal comments to date from any member of the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the committee? Okay, seeing Councillor McDonnell.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'd move to approve as it stands. Just I know we've given other ones exemptions, and I know of a few that are maybe under even the 7 acre size. So I think at 20 acres or 22 and a half acres, I think we're pretty good here.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a seconder? Second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor as presented? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. So I will now hand it over to Mayor Prevost for the next one, as it involves a family member of mine. So take it away, Mr.
Can't hear anything.
Sorry, I was on mute. We're moving to A0821. It's the Roseau/Warden. Mrs. Haley, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this application, we received a suggestion that we deferred as well. I think I'll just walk you through the presentation quickly and then explain the reason for that requested deferral. So this property is located at part of Lot 5, Registered Plan 26 in the Geographic Village of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and it's known or addressed as 1 Thomas Street. This is the subject property. So you can see this is Thomas here, Military Road here, Roseau Insurance located here. And here's an aerial view of the corner property. And here's just more of a side view of the corner property. So just a little bit of history of the property. The subject property used to be residentially developed. However, the house was destroyed by fire approximately 10 years ago. When the house was there, it was serviced by municipal water and sewer. So the agent of the applicant is looking at the possibility of constructing a single detached dwelling. And the property is quite small. And in order to fit a dwelling in this location, based on the site plan that was provided, the requested minor variances are as follows. To reduce the front yard setback from 6 meters to 4.57 meters. So the front yard setback would be the parcel of the portion of the property that fronts on Military Road. And then to reduce the exterior side yard setback from 6 meters to 4.57 meters. And that portion is from Thomas Street going north. And then to reduce the rear yard setback from 6 meters to 1.8 meters, which would be the north side of the property, which would face the abutting house to the north. So the property is designated a residential district in the county official plan and is located within the urban settlement area of Lancaster. And the application conforms to the general intent of the official plan. The property is zoned residential 2 and conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. This is a site plan that was prepared for Mr. Rozo. So you can see that this is done in feet. We did the conversion for metric because of our bylaw. But if this helps you, this area fronts on Military Road and Thomas Street. So this is where the 4.57 meter setback would be here and here. And then they can meet the setback on this side because it's only required to be 1.2 meters, which is 4 feet. And then the reduction of the setback in this location. And this would allow for a building envelope then to build a single detached dwelling. So the application was circulated to applicable municipal staff, and planning and building have no concerns with the application. I've received no verbal or formal comments to date from the public. I did receive the county's comments earlier today, and they are as follows. The county currently has no objection. However, it should be noted that the applicant will need to apply for a setback permit from the counties. During the county setback review, sightlines at the intersection of County Road 34 and Thomas Street will be considered. SD&G may not be able to grant similar setbacks as what is being considered by South Glengarry. So when I received these comments from Mr. DeHaan, I wrote back to him because I anticipated the review of the setback would have been completed during the minor variance circulation. However, they are requesting that the County Road setback permit be applied for, and that will then tell them whether they can support the reduction or not. So I asked Mr. DeHaan if he would prefer to have the setback permit applied for and reviewed before a decision was made, and he did indicate that that would be the preference. I did review this with Mr. Rozo by email. I forwarded him the comments, and he has already applied for the setback permit just in the last few hours and agreed that he would be in favor of a deferral until it's been fully reviewed by the United Counties. So once a setback permit is received from the counties, a decision can be made to support the application. Let's say the county comes back and they can't support a 4.57 meter setback, but they can support a 5 meter setback. Mr. Rozo will be given the opportunity to amend his application at no further cost, and we would just recirculate, and then the committee would make the decision. If the county can support the requested setback, then it'll move forward as we presented it this evening. So the hope is to bring it back to a meeting as soon as possible. So I don't have any further comments to add on this application, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Haley. I have one quick question for you in regards to the setback from the counties. If the counties came back and said, no, we can't support it, and if it comes back to this committee and the committee supports it, where does it go from that point?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I alluded to that in my email. And the reason why I alluded to that is that if the committee approves it, a county road setback permit is not applicable law, meaning if Mr. Rozo applies for a building permit and the building meets the newly approved reduced setback by the committee, our building department would be obligated to issue the permit because a county road setback is not applicable law. It's a courtesy that we work with the counties to reduce the setback.
Right, okay. And are we, if we deferred this, or if that was the request from the committee, do you think it'll be back at the next meeting? Is that the intent?
So I asked Mr. DeHaan if it could be back at the next meeting. The next meeting, by the way, is April 19th. He indicated to me if it doesn't need approval from county council, yes, it can be at our April 19th meeting. If it needs approval from county council, he's writing his staff reports today and tomorrow for your next meeting, which means he won't have it on the April agenda. It would have to go on the May agenda.
We can ask for an exception to have it added to the agenda on April 19th for county council.
So that's something you're aware of that I'm not aware of.
No, that's fair. That's fine. Okay, can you get us back to the screen of the people that are on?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
It's a habit not to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if there's anybody on from, it doesn't look like Mr. Rozo or anybody from Mr. Warden's, Mrs. Warden's side. Okay,
Through you,
any,
Mr. Mayor, there's not,
there's what, sorry?
there's not anyone on.
No,
as
yeah,
mentioned.
I'm just looking at the attendees. I don't see anybody on there for this file, so thank you.
It's possible Mr. Rozo decided not to participate once I shared this information with him later this afternoon.
Okay, and did he have an issue with deferring it?
No, and he's already applied for the permit.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from members of council? Or any suggestions from members of council? Councillor McDonnell, then Councillor Lang.
I'd move to defer to the next meeting, and hopefully county council can make the exception and get it on their meeting.
I will look into that. Thank you. Councillor Lang.
We'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jaworski, you did have your hand up?
I did. I'd like to defer and make sure that the applicant only has to go through this process once.
Okay, so it was moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Lang, that we defer this hopefully till the next council meeting in April. If not, it'll be the first meeting in May. So you heard that motion. All in favor? The motion's carried. Thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Haley?
No, just to update the committee. We anticipated having a meeting on the 19th. However, we've not received any applications. So if Mr. Rozo's application comes back, I'll schedule it for 5:30 p.m. because we already have a 6 p.m. public meeting. And if it doesn't come back on time, then we will not be meeting until May.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll ask for somebody to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Councillor McDonnell. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. Thanks very much to the public for being with us this evening, and we'll see everybody